Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here, and they've been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969, and now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Page, Christopher DePerno, and Katie Cook, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up? It is Tuesday night and you are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity and curiosity starts with MUFON, brought to you by KGRADB.com. I hope you go to their website and subscribe. I am your host, Katie Page. I am Colorado MUFON State Director and International MUFON's Mars Administrator. As always, we are endorsed by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? Boy, do we have a great guest for you tonight. We have James Keenan in the studio. James Keenan is somebody who I respect and admire greatly because of all his research into high strangeness, paranormal locations, not only here in the United States, but around the world. So I can't wait to get into some great conversations with James tonight. I thank you all for being here tonight. I hope you all had a great weekend last weekend and that you're having a good week so far this week. I'm a little hyped up because I've been on a couple really big hikes and it's good to get out there in nature finally and getting settled and all that great stuff. I would like to bring in Katie Cook. Kate, you see her on country music television and she loves all things UFO paranormal. What's up, Katie?
What's up? How are you?
I'm a little hyper tonight. I don't know.
I can tell. That's good. Coffee. Give me some energy. I don't know if it's the allergies around Nashville, but I've been kind of like sleepy all day. So I'm going to absorb some of your energy. Bring it on.
I'll give it to you. All right. Well, that allergy medicine will do that to you.
That's true.
That. True. All right. Let's bring in Chris DePerno, Jerry and Jenna, New York State Director and ERT member. Hey, Chris. Hey, Jerry. Hey, Jenna.
No, you don't. He thinks he's Tom Cruise. It's Spy Week here on the news, and he thinks he's Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible.
So you got a need for speed?
Oh, let me tell you something. He's got a need for something else. He's got a need for the toilet. But anyways, listen, hey, we got James Keenan on tonight. He is awesome. He's the guy that's been there, done that. And he's got a world of stuff to tell us tonight. And we're going to interview him, and that's going to be an awesome interview.
Yeah, it's going to be really good.
What do you have to kick us off tonight, Katie?
Well, let's start with a little giggle. I've got a fun meme for us. You know, our guest tonight has spent a lot of time visiting ancient sites around the world, so I found a fun meme. For those of you just listening, it's a picture of Stonehenge, and there's a worker and like this truck with a trailer. It says, "A busy night at Stonehenge as workers move all the stones forward 1 hour."
I like that one.
God, can you imagine? And let's talk about our paranormal pop of the week. It's a classic alien flying in his little flying saucer in white chocolate. I think we have a picture. Yeah, you can see that a little better there. I love this one. It's just classic paranormal pop. And you know, last week I attended the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference and I got to hang out with Paranormal Pop's creator Wendy Robinson and see some of her new creations. And I made a little video. Amanda, can you run that?
Awesome. First of all, love to Matt. I saw Matt in there.
We love Matt.
He was out there with Trey and us. I got to hang out with him a couple times. And then Angelia's book.
Yes. Yeah. You know, Wendy created Paranormal Pops really through her inspiration from Angelia. You know, this was all really dedicated to her. So she's still at every time she sets up a booth has Angelia's book there, and everyone that comes by, she tells them all about Angelia. It's really sweet. It was just nice to get to see all the pops in person. Like she's so creative with the way she does the displays. I mean, the booth catches your eye from really far away, and you're just like, oh, I got to check that out. I forgot I put the little Bigfoot growl in there, and it made me jump. I got to that part. I'm such a dork. But anyway, you can
know
order.
What my uncle was doing there.
Wait,
He was
what?
standing, my uncle.
Your uncle.
Your
Uncle
your
Henry.
Just like him.
a big
Hairy guy, you know, the Italian hair all over him.
There was a lot of hairy guys there. Yeah, exactly. Yes, I like hairy guys. Anyway, moving on. You can order Paranormal Pops at paranormalpops.com. And finally, if you are decorating and you really want to make a room out of this world, you've got to check out the coolest wallpaper ever made. I want this. Amanda? I like that
I
music.
absolutely love
too.
that. They make that in a fabric as well, and I have a lamp over there in that corner. You can't see it, but I'm going to cover it in fabric. And if you go and so not only do they wallpaper in fabric, if you type in UFO fabric, there's all sorts of crazy stuff to look
You
at.
know,
I can't
it's
decide.
so
There's too much.
something
Yeah,
just
right.
came to mind.
Oh, what?
Do they have lavatories on spaceships?
I don't think so.
Are you
all these
thinking-
people that get beamed up, I haven't heard one guy say, "Hey, listen, I had to go to the bathroom. I had to tell these guys. I had to take a leak."
I
Think
thought
about
maybe
it. You
I
get
thought
beamed
maybe
up, you've gone missing for hours, and nobody says, "Hey, listen, I gotta use the toilet."
that's why they bring us back. That's the only reason. We'd probably stay gone forever. But
Okay,
then
I'm just asking if they got a restroom on the thing.
I thought you were going to say because they could wallpaper it with that really cool UFO
Well,
wallpaper.
yeah, they can wallpaper with it, but it just came to mind. We're looking at their wallpaper. I think they would be great in the bathroom. Don't you think so?
Okay, I was connecting the thoughts.
I'm
That
gonna get that
seemed
for my
random.
wife and have
They
her
would
say,
look good
"Honey,
in
I'm
the
gonna put that in your bathroom."
Came back around to the wallpaper. Anyway, if you want to order that really cool UFO wallpaper, it's at spoonflower.com. Chris, I can already tell you're on a roll tonight, so I'm just going to say, let it roll. What news do you have for us?
Amanda!
Oh, God.
Good evening, Mr. DePerno. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to infiltrate the Bigfoot community and to see if they're here as an alien species, here to eat us. Should you or that nitwit behind you get captured or killed, the entire UFO community will disavow your existence. This recording will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, and keep Jerry on a leash.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord, it's Spy Week here on MUFON. What's up? Spy Week. I got Tom Cruise in the back. Anyways, there's a whole other reality that surrounds us. Ex-CIA officer drops alien encounter bombshell. Over nearly a century, ex-CIA officers and military officials have been known for spilling the beans on UFO and alien encounters, ranging from Daryl Sims to Lou Elizondo to David Fravor and R. James Woosley. Recently, a CIA veteran named Jim Semivan stepped up to the plate, sharing information with George Knapp that he has caught the attention of paranormal and UFO investigators nationwide. The ex-CIA agent details harrowing alien encounter with his wife in his bedroom. Okay. Semivan described paranormal alien type encounters that he and his wife experienced beginning in 1999. Folks, do not do drugs. During this, which beings showed up in the bedroom, the ex-CIA employee said that the incident was not a dream state was authentic in nature. Jim and his wife reported seeing a hooded figure that resembled the Death Eater character from Harry Potter. He said it perhaps materialized to herald the death of a close friend. The incident was authentic, Semivan insisted. Semivan also shared his perspective on the UFO phenomenon, agreeing that it is a lot more than nuts and bolts and machines. Investigations have been conducted on metamaterials with odd isotopic ratios that are currently ongoing. Semivan added that he believes we have only seen the tip of the iceberg when it comes to aliens and UFOs, much like in the animal kingdom, where each creature lives in its own world with an entirely different scale depending on location, environment, the creature's size, the way it's perceived. It's getting pretty crowded. The human may be living on a completely different spectrum compared to aliens without even realizing it. Semivan said, the phenomenon is a natural part of our universe, and we're living in it, but we don't recognize it. We might be walking through our existence, and there's a whole other reality that surrounds us that we just simply don't have the ability to see or interact with. I gotta tend to agree because most of the time I walk around and I don't want to interact with anybody. Amanda, roll that tape.
Well, here's just the trickster element and this phenomenon. It does lie to you, and it is very, very deceitful at times. It will tell you things that sound wonderful, but but also they make no sense. And is it toying with us, or is it using some kind of symbols that we don't understand? I don't know. I don't think so. I think in a way I refer to them as the jinn, because the jinn, in Arab culture, they're sort of like us, only they're made out of quote unquote fire or ether or what have you. But they also have the same kind of not emotions. Well, I guess you could say they have emotions too. But there's good jinn and there's bad jinn, and they play games and what have you. And in a sense, maybe this phenomenon is playing games with us.
I don't know if he was saying jinn or jinn. If he was saying jinn, I'm all for it. But I think he was saying jen or something else. Or jen.
Yeah,
I don't know.
the
Cookie,
jinn.
what do you think?
The gin.
Yes,
Are we
definitely
by the jinn?
different kind of gin for sure. I think it was Bud Hopkins that told Linda Moulton Howe, never trust an alien. And there are all these people that have wonderful experiences with aliens. But I do always wonder if they can just control our emotions and make us think we're having a really groovy experience. I do wonder that. I think he's right. There is a whole other reality that most of us can't see most of the time, and every once in a while it bleeds through. So I believe that.
Katie?
I think our 5 sense reality, we just see and hear and experience just a sliver of what's out there. And, I've talked to Heidi Hollis about this, and that is the people that have experiences that start out to be very scary, and then they turn into these wonderful, almost euphoric, wonderful connections. And are they being tricksters? Are they tricking you? And so that's always a concern. So yeah, I think you have to be careful with what you are interacting with out there, because you really don't know. When you talk about motives, you can never be sure.
I have to tell you something, and this is just the way I feel. If a hooded creature showed up in the middle of the night, in my bedroom, I don't take that as a happy birthday surprise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just not, knock on the door at a reasonable hour, bring a gift, say, hey, I need to talk to you. But you don't come in my bedroom at whatever time at night, unless you're going to take my wife out. Anyways, we'll leave that off the air. Anyway, let's get on with the next story. God, I hope she didn't hear that. Captured alien being communicates with KGB. Do you know how KGB is called? Kagaba. I learned that from my wife. The KGB agent, using only telepathy, he has to call his boss. Call my boss. I'm stuck down here. Okay. While the KGB was in operation, there were a lot of stories of UFO ships, alien interventions, and more. Russians believe in UFOs at a fair higher rate than Americans because it was part of the government for many years. Now, a former KGB intelligence officer had claimed he captured an alien. This agent was charged with capturing a variety of evidence from the alien. The agent went into a hidden subterranean facility in a remote area and found a number of closed doors. According to him, there were many strange noises made by what he calls unidentifiable animals. Because of being in what you could call the right place at the right time, he was able to get across to the chamber where the alien was being detained at the time. People around the KGB agent provided him with protective clothing and assured him that he was not in danger from the weakened and smaller alien. He could hear the faint alien's voice asking him to contact his superior, and have him, the alien, removed from the jail. Get me the hell out of here, where he was being confined when he arrived. There's no bathroom. Some believe that these aliens could be us from the future, and we should treat them with respect since we reverse engineered their technology and used it to our military and tactical advantage. Maybe we owe them a debt of gratitude, maybe not. Depends on the alien race and what they are keen on doing to humanity, and they don't eat us. Amanda, roll that tape.
In March 1990, in the former Soviet Union, fighter planes scrambled to investigate pulsing lights northeast of Moscow. For 3.5 hours, they stalked the lights, which moved at speeds up to 3,000 miles an hour. No radar image appeared on the screens of ground stations, but photographs were taken, and thermal imaging produced results. For the Chief of Air Defense Forces, these secret results were proof enough of UFOs.
Though journalists are asking if there are other sightings, this 1990 case is the only one supported by evidence. This is the only case for which there is real proof.
Nor was it ever considered that the sighting was that of a stealth bomber.
We never thought it was an American stealth aircraft. The radar characteristics are not the same. Stealth behaves like a plane in terms of speed and maneuverability. UFOs are very different.
The unwritten rule: do not fire on UFOs.
As far as official instructions are concerned, we in air defense have certain unwritten rules that mean we do not fire at UFOs.
From 1977 on, an official Soviet Ministry of Defense study has collected hundreds of reports of UFOs, reportedly to gain alien technology for military use. Their files list many cases. In one case, a pilot reported finding a light closing in on him, at which point his aircraft went into rapid descent. Though he landed safely, there was damage to the left wing. Never before seen in the West, this amateur footage purports to show a UFO over the parliament in Vilnius, capital of Lithuania. The craft hovers noiselessly, appearing to land. At dawn the next morning, local militia videotaped this nearby. Enhanced, the night visitor looks like this. It moves unlike a normal helicopter or plane.
Wow.
Now, I will tell you, the Russians have been heavily involved with ufology. That's no joke. They have absolutely been doing it. Now, while I was researching this story, I came across a video. I'm not going to vet it because I haven't vetted it. I don't know if it's real or unreal or what, but I want you to see it because it absolutely talks about what we just talked about in that story. Amanda, roll that second tape.
Agora com calma. Para poder não assustar, porque ele pode reagir negativamente com a câmera.
E aquela parada dele falar, cara, ele é sempre quietinho assim, meio paradão.
Fica sempre assim. Solta uns ruídos, umas coisas, mas a maior parte do tempo.
Ele tá mexendo, hein? Caraca, muito maneiro. Como fede essa parada? Canal todo babado aqui, ó.
Não só babado, como. É como um animal. Mas bem que ele tá percebendo tudo que está acontecendo, mas. É só não ter movimentos bruscos que ele.
Juca,
é melhor não chamar.
Pô, deixa eu chegar mais pertinho. Olha isso, mané.
Não chega tão perto.
Olha pra cá, ó. Que isso?
Olha só, melhor ser só. Sai.
Caraca,
vamos pra lá agora.
Phony? Could be. Real? Could be. I don't know. Cookie, what do you think?
God, yeah, I have no idea. If it's real, I feel sorry for it. It sounded like they said, let's barbecue it. But I don't know.
Well, he wasn't exactly asking for a McDonald's.
Yeah, who knows with videos like that? I mean, if it's real, it's stunning, but it would be very easy to fake something like that, obviously. But real quick, can we go back to that picture, the Russians with the alien, the one on the left there? That looks like Bat Boy from the Inquirer. where did you find
what
that?
Boy?
You remember Bat Boy that was always on the Inquirer? I don't know where you found that picture, but I was like, it's Bat Boy. Come on, in the grocery store checkout, don't you remember Bat Boy?
Bat Boy.
It would come up all the time. I don't know what to think about any of this. I do think the Russian. Well, I think every government's into studying UFOs. So who knows? Who knows?
I haven't seen that video. I've seen another interview of an alien that there's really good footage out there. We'll have to get it for next week's show or something, because the movements of the alien were really analyzed, and the movements of the eyebrows and the muscles and all that, kind of like that Bigfoot or what is that, that famous Bigfoot video that they really analyzed? What is that called? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I can remember the name of it now. The old one.
Out there, that one. Anyway,
well, somebody will pop up.
Yeah, it'll come up in my head in a minute. But something that's interesting is it's always so dark and shaky, and then it makes that weird noise, and it goes all crazy. And they said that's because of the ETs. You can't have any bright lights or anything like that. So who knows if that's real or not?
I mean, it's really well done if it's a fake, the way the eyes move and everything. But
right. I want to look at that again.
We certainly have that technology to make those kind of videos. So who knows? But good find, Chris. Good news segment.
Good news.
Yeah,
Thanks,
love
Chris.
That.
Tom Cruise liked it too.
Yeah. Oh, good. Very, very glad we're keeping him happy. He's kind of short, like Tom Cruise really is too. No offense, Jerry, but KDP, case of the week.
I do have a case of the week. Okay, the case number is 123083. It occurred on June 16th, 2022, right at noon in Aurora, Colorado. It was a Category 2 case, 2-witness case. So the witness and their partner observed 2 white orbs in the sky moving and appearing to blink in and out. The orbs appear to be solid objects as light can reflect off of them. The objects made fast movements and directional changes. The orbs also appeared to change shape. I hear that a lot. The orbs would disappear and reappear in different areas, moving independently. This case was closed as an unknown UAV, and the basis for that closure was from the videos, the objects were moving quickly, with a cigar-shaped object moving quickly in a straight line, and a white orb moving around the sky in a more erratic motion. Flight Radar 24 data shows no other planes in the area matching the speeds, directions, or descriptions. Witness noted that there were black unmarked helicopters circling the area after both incidents. So these witnesses spotted something similar the day before. So I'm going to have them roll a video, which I added music to, and kind of cropped a little bit just for sake of the show, but it shows for those just listening this light that kind of blinks on and off and does these erratic movements up and down. And then also the second video that will run right after the first one are just screenshots of images that they captured on both days, the day before and the day of this case. So Amanda, if you want to roll those videos. Kind of hard to see, I know. So let's run that second one so we have some still shots. For a while, it like kind of turns into this cube looking thing. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
There definitely was a cylinder there at one point, wasn't there, Katie?
Yeah.
From
Yeah,
one of
when
the
you
pictures,
slow
you
it
can
down
see a
and you
cylinder.
zoom in, yeah. And I wanted to zoom it in more and make it full screen, but when I did that, it kind of lost the erratic movement of it and would go off screen. So, but it is an interesting case when you really slow it down and look at it really closely. Doesn't behave like birds.
No, it doesn't. In that first still, I thought, okay, we could be seeing, you know, bird wings, how it can make that kind of blurry image, but then it immediately did not look anything like a bird. It's pretty cool. I wish we had perspective, like trees or power lines or something. But
yeah. Tip for those of you, at least zoom out once and then zoom in if you have to, but that perspective is important.
Yeah. Did you catch up with Bob Spearing this week, Chris?
Yes, I did. He's back from vacation, an 8-week vacation, toured the whole United States, and he sent us a video. Amanda?
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Spearing, MUFON's Director of Investigations on the international side. Each week, Chris asks me to show you a video, a photo, or a drawing of something that the witnesses we get submit to our MUFON case management system. This week, I have a case out of England, just took place last month, and without further ado, I'm going to ask Chris to play it because it is a fairly long video, and I will pick up with some analysis towards the end of the video. Okay, let it roll. The first thing I'd like you to look at is the brightness of the sky. And I will be showing you a second video that will only be a 20-minute clip, but you will see that it is later on in the evening. Right now, these people claim that there is a strange, bright object in the sky. It is clearly not Venus or a star in the early evening because it is moving from left to right across the screen. And I'm going to let this play a little bit. As the object gets close to the house top on the right, it's going to do something slightly odd that I want you guys watching this right now to observe. So let's let it play a little bit.
Changing direction.
Now, what I think this is a plane making a turn for one of the several surrounding airports that encompass Westbury, United Kingdom. There are airports anywhere from 12 to 20 miles away, literally encircling the town. Now, watch what happens right now. It seems it's turning into two.
Just broke into two. What the fuck? No, it's going the other way. What the fuck? You in there, babe? Yeah. Babe, you gotta come.
So, are they looking at two airplanes that were on the same flight path, and as one broke to do his landing and another one his landing at possibly two different airports, they seem to separate and be two separate lights? I personally have seen this living next to Newark Airport for a large part of my life, and I believe that's what we're looking at now. It was two airplanes coming in one behind each other, and then they appeared to be two objects splitting, and they're going to either both to the same airport on different flight paths, or to one of two airports on that northern side of Westbury. The case continues with the second video, and this is where we start to lose the witness, basically. Play the second video.
Look.
Fireworks.
Nerd. What the hell?
You can see it's darker now. So this is a later time of the night. It is clearly not the objects we were looking at before.
Oh.
That is not fireworks.
It is fireworks. And later on, you will see that the
bright
fireworks are coming up from
No, it went in two
below
different
the tree
directions.
line.
Split into two.
That's not fireworks.
No, it's not bollocks.
In all,
No, they're going up.
they did 3 videos, and fireworks
I mean, that's
do
fireworks.
this.
I don't think so. It was one bright white light, split into two, and now it's doing all sorts of weird things. And now it's 4 lights, leaving a massive trail.
That is not fireworks.
What the hell is that? I have never seen anything like it. They're still in the sky. Changing direction, down, going across, meeting. Kind of like a firework explosion, but no fireworks do that.
Yeah. That is not fireworks.
Look, they're still moving, changing direction again.
They're not drones. They are not drones. They might be, but they're not.
Okay, you can end the
not
video there, Chris.
That is just the weirdest thing I have.
Okay, so it turns out that this was taken Easter weekend. Easter weekend in the UK is a bank holiday. It's a big public holiday. It's a big fireworks weekend. This was Saturday night, the night before Easter, that this was taken. Clearly, earlier in the first video, they were playing music. I believe that Saturday night, the night before Easter, is a party night in the UK. We clearly saw 2 airplanes earlier, very far away in the distance, and then we have fireworks much closer to the house later on that night. So we're looking at 2 different scenarios, 2 different things going on, and the witnesses most likely were trying to perpetrate a hoax. That's it this week. Thank you, Chris DiPerno, for having me on, and I hopefully will see you guys next week.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I may have to not side with Bob on this one. Can I offer up my thoughts and then?
I would
Please
love to
do.
hear your
And-
thoughts.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm not saying fireworks can't do that, but I've personally never seen fireworks hang in the sky that long. That's a different kind of firework than I've personally seen, but I'm not saying they couldn't exist. Those people sounded genuinely excited. Now, they might be wrong. Maybe they weren't looking at a UFO, but they didn't sound like they were just trying to create a hoax to me. They seem genuinely excited. What I really liked is that accent. So my family, I'm from England, and my family's from the West Coast. They're from Bristol, and they sound like that. So I actually loved hearing that video because I love that accent. But I'm not sure they were really trying to hoax anybody. It didn't feel that way to me.
I agree, Katie. And in the first video too, I mean, I guess you don't always see blinking lights on a plane from that distance. So yes, that could be a logical explanation, but I think that needs to have a closer look too. And I personally have never seen fireworks that act like that. They go down, then back up, then shoot, then back. But then it was that explosion. So maybe something like that exists. I know they could do all sorts of weird displays now with fireworks. So who knows? But
Yeah.
I don't think it was hoaxed. Maybe just misidentified.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
I don't have an opinion yet. I want to study it a little more, to be honest with you. I think you put up a strong argument. I said, because I know Bob, I could be biased in that respect to say, hey, listen, if he says it's fireworks, it's fireworks. But you did bring up a good suggestion, and I want to study it more. In ufology, you have to keep an open mind.
Yeah.
What appears to be for one person, I could say, oh my God, there's a UFO. Look at it. It's a spaceship. It's this and that. And the other person says, Chris, that's a picture of a bird. I mean, and we really have to be scientific and thorough when it comes to this stuff, and to be open about different suggestions.
That is true. And nobody knows that better than our special guest tonight, James Keenan. I think now is an excellent time to bring him on in. So James Keenan is an author and field investigator. He has a degree in interdisciplinary studies from the University of California, Santa Barbara. His main focus having been anthropology and archaeology. He regularly conducts investigations and scientific data collection at sites around the world that appear to be connected to distant lost history and what many consider the paranormal. Some well-known sites include the Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch in Utah. His findings have led him to believe that the unexplainable and ancient lost history are partially linked together. This includes his extensive research into the giants of the Americas and their connection to other locations throughout the world. Prior to becoming an author, James had a career in law enforcement and private investigations that spanned over 20 years. James has appeared on numerous radio and podcast shows. His television appearances include shows on the Travel Channel, the CW, Gaia, and History Channel, and James appeared on Season 2 of the History Channel series, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Please welcome to the show, James Keenan. Welcome, James.
Hi, Katie. Hi, Chris, Jerry, and
Hello, James.
It's so glad to have you here. I guess my first question I'm going to throw right at you right out of the box is, how did your studies in anthropology and archaeology, I mean, I know you said the giants, but when did this start? Like, what year did you really get into UFOs and paranormal and that whole side of archaeology and anthropology for you?
Sure. So I was doing an excavation in Mexico, and I accidentally went past the depth that I was supposed to go, and I ended up digging something up that shouldn't have been there. It looked like a being other than human, and I know there's a lot of anthropomorphic and zoomorphic figures, but I was most interested with the fact is, how did it get down 2 feet deeper than, the level that it was supposed to have started the occupation of the site. So, the first red flag went off as to, well, these people were obviously here hundreds of years, earlier than what we thought. And, who or what could their deity have been? And, we've we've allowed people to tell us for 175 years that, these deities are just mythology and folklore, and never possibly took the opportunity to think that maybe these were living deities and just beings from a past civilization that survived, where most of their kind was, destroyed, and whatever type of cataclysmic event occurred, or if, they died off some other way. And it put me on that path. And, I definitely believe that ancient civilizations and cultures that we've lost track of in the distant history end up having little bits and pieces or tidbits that go with ufology and go with other type of cryptic lore. And, the deeper that you delve into it, you end up seeing that these mythological gods and deities may not have really been a myth, that oral tradition is actually telling historical data. And just for the longest time, we were told that, these indigenous people, no matter where they were in the world, were inept, incapable of understanding to the level that we were. And, you have to think and ask yourself, if an early 19th century anthropologist saw a biplane in the air for whatever reason, what would they have thought of it? So, and that it just led one thing after another. And I just started collecting all this data and realizing that you start looking into it more, and you start finding magnetic anomalies and electromagnetic anomalies and weird radio frequencies and just amplitude changes, transient energy, where you're like, what the hell? This shouldn't be happening in one location. There's this minimal effect by the sun, solar radiation, or the movement of the planet, but it should never, move where I've recorded data for. And then from a scientific standpoint, it's repeatable at multiple sites. So then you really have to start looking at, maybe we're just, the paranormal is just not normal. Maybe we need to find out and make it normal.
Right. Science of tomorrow. So where and when was that again that you discovered this?
That was in the late 1990s in the island of Cozumel, Mexico.
Oh, okay. And what did it look
wow.
like? Yeah.
I have it behind me. Maybe at the break, I'll grab it and just show you.
Okay.
Not that little thing with the horns.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
No, it's probably about 3/4 of an inch or inch. And I, took photos of it. And it doesn't look like any of the other anthropomorphic figures that were, from the Maya culture. It looked more very proto-Olmec, meaning pre-Olmec. And the Olmec should have been nowhere near Cozumel. So, who the Olmec were, the Olmec are the rubber people. That's a Nahuatl word that was given by the Aztec, and it was accidentally given to these indigenous people that really weren't the Olmec. The Olmec were actually around when the Azteca were around, the Mixteca people. So we actually have it all incorrect. The Olmec aren't really the Olmec, but it's stuck, and that's what we use now. So who knows who the proto-Olmec were, and history's screwed up. Hopefully we'll find some type of hall of records or something and fix it all.
Ain't that the truth?
Behind the Sphinx.
Hey, James, the last time we talked,
Uh-oh.
there was something that, I know. I gotta ask you, because it's been on my mind. The last time we talked, you were upset when somebody mentioned a book, and you pulled that book out, and you were upset with it, called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Yeah. But you never told me why. So I got to ask you, what bothers you about that book?
Man, you're going to get me in trouble.
No, I'm not going to get you in trouble, because let me tell you, so I want to tell the listeners right now this. One of the most credible ufologists there is in this business is James Keenan, because he does his homework. He knows what he's talking about. If he doesn't know what he doesn't know, he'll tell you. And that tells me that he's an extreme. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mine's all highlighted, how we could see.
And I was very impressed with that. So that's why I have to ask you that question, because that book is being spotlighted now. A lot of people think it's gospel, So I want your take on it.
No, there's a lot of issues. So I obviously know people from the Nids and Bass era, and I'm privy to quite a bit of information that has come out that was debunked, that has been used as if it were not, when they knew it what it really was, and it shows up as if it was something that it just wasn't. It's a little disheartening, and it's not to say that all the phenomena that occurs didn't happen, because I've absolutely seen phenomena recently there occur, and like I said, these magnetic fields, I can't grasp what I'm data collecting. But the journals from Bass are incorrect. The stories are just, it just drives me crazy. If you've ever been to the ranch at night, it is pitch black. I mean, you can't see your hand 6 inches in front of you. And if you have a porcupine run across the field, suddenly it's some type of dinosaur, give me a break. And just, for the last 20 years, whether it was private or through law enforcement, you just get that spidey sense, and then you can't, let go of that bone that you're given, and you just keep digging and digging and digging. And there's just issues with what this money was for, that only...
James, were people used as guinea pigs?
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's never come out.
Yeah, number 9.
People were sent to that ranch and not told what was going on, and they were used as guinea pigs.
Number 9 and number 10 on the DIA list, when they were putting in for the contract, specifically talks about how it would be to monitor how the effects are on humans. I mean, I put that in my presentation from the DIA records, not from what Bass gave us. And this was all, pre-ASAP coming out. ASAP program, excuse me. And I know firsthand from individuals, I have their MRIs, and what's super interesting, and I tell people, I'm pretty familiar with magnetic resonance imaging, fMRIs. I did it in school, going through data from it, and I couldn't find anything wrong with one of them. However, what was just so interesting was they sent 2 individuals to get an MRI done in Reno. So what that tells you right away is they saw and experienced the same phenomena, which never happens. It's always a one-off. So you're taking somebody's story. It's secondhand knowledge. 2 people saw this occur and were sent, and we have that data. They finally found out about it and requested it, and were able to get it. And then, I can't let crap go. So I went to Reno, and I was knocking at doors, and, neighboring doctors said they've never seen a doctor or a nurse come out of this office. It's just got the guy's name on it. And you just start going down more rabbit holes. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think one of the books maybe is good to, label it as fictional, and the other one should probably be marked as evidence for a future Senate subcommittee hearing. And I'll just leave it at that.
And just before I pass this on, there was intelligence people that met with some of your friends who were probably guinea pigs, right?
I got to really be careful. Okay. I would always rather you get it firsthand from those individuals.
I got it firsthand.
Yeah. So I'll let them speak, for themselves.
All right.
I just have a lot of issues with the books. And like I said, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of phenomena that occurs. I think people were telling Robert Bigelow what he wanted to hear because bonuses were involved. They didn't want to lose their job. It was lucrative pay.
Right.
And people wanted to use that funding for other things, to research, which the DOD and DIA said no, which I think still went on. But, I just have, I think as a taxpayer, people may want to, question what they read and maybe go from there. And I'm not going to get into it too deep. I personally have issues with a lot of this book.
Right.
And,
I have a question for you out of the book, James, if you don't mind me asking, just your opinion on this part, because I thought it was really interesting. Because, in this book, they talk a lot about that hitchhiker phenomenon, right? That a lot of the people on the ranch experienced. I've experienced that in Colorado. And I just thought on page 98, it talks about this. Hennessy also told Grossman about some of the advanced Air Force programs on micro UAVs and how these micro UAVs could easily be mistaken for non-human technology. Without divulging any classified information, Hennessy appeared to be warning his interlocker not to automatically assume that all very advanced looking technology was non-human. Hennessy was warning Bass not to overinterpret the plethora of emergent data on orbs. I took that as meaning some of these orbs that people are experiencing may be our own technology, which is kind of concerning because these things are in our bedrooms. What do you think about that? And we only have 6 minutes left before break.
Yeah, you're gonna get me in trouble again. I after what I've been told with people that were in that business, and I'm not going to give specific areas. If you follow me, you know who I hang around with, who's part of my team. I think everything that we've seen is ours. I do believe that if there's something there that is not ours, that they're coming through what we would call an electron diffusion region, which is a magnetic energy coming into contact with electromagnetic energy and creating these charged particles. And I don't think it has to do with space more as maybe an interdimensionality, but in regards to what they said, yeah, absolutely. I think most of what we're seeing, we have. It's already available to us. I know we were watching a fireworks display, or a lot of people thought it was fireworks in the UK. You may want to consider that now we have hundreds and hundreds of these drones that can also look like fireworks that are all over the place, that you can't tell the difference from, a distance like that individual was videotaping from. So.
Yeah,
true.
Well, a few minutes before break, but I'm just wondering if I'm following you guys, is it possible that Skinwalker is our own experiment and it's just masquerading as a paranormal place? Like you said, there probably is some paranormal stuff going on there. You're not like a total non-believer, but wouldn't that be just a genius a way to disguise a place to experiment,
So Katie, I think they're mimicking what's there or was there. See, what happens is they left a huge part out of it, and it was the Native American history, which is oral tradition and rock art, which has logged a ton of data for thousands of years. And there's some interesting phenomena taking place in the Uinta Basin and the Uinta Mountains that have been registered in the rock art by multiple cultures going back. And it goes down all the way as far south as Kayenta, Arizona. But there's this large quantity of it very close to the ranches up in the Uinta Basin. So I absolutely think that the phenomena has been occurring for a lot longer than we're aware of. I believe that what we consider a skinwalker or a shapeshifter, the Navajo call the Yinaldlushi, I really think it's a organized society or group of Native Americans that are protecting a site. And I think that it's possible that some of the phenomena being seen is being mimicked by militaries or other, whether they be working for the government or whoever it is. It's just a great background to be able to test and do what you want, because there's a story built in already. So I think it's both. Both is occurring.
Well, yeah, and it could be a great experiment just in human psychology, like how humans are going to react to something. But that's really, I hadn't really thought about that. So you're suggesting some Native Americans in the area could have been basically tricking the white man, to try and get them to get away from this area. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I think they're keeping people away from a specific area or location that's in the Uinta Mountains, and that's connected underground. And I believe that if there is some type of energy available there, whether it's creating this phenomena or attracting a ton of the phenomena, I think the governments and corporations are extremely interested in it, have probably already may not have figured out what it is, but figured out how to manipulate it or copy it. Hence, like the Havana syndrome. You still see that occurring to specific individuals on the ranch when someone else is standing right next to them. So we know this is focused on certain individuals for whatever reason, if it's targeted or if it has something to do with their physiological makeup. I don't know. But just the more and more that I'm up there and just all this information, and you start listening to the stories, and you kind of just got to start thinking about it, outside of the box. I would love for it all to be paranormal. I really would, but there's just so much as this moves forward and we continue on that I just start looking at it. I'm like, gosh, this just looks like our technology, or we're mimicking something that was there. But you know what? There is other artifacts below ground that are creating high amounts of energy, and we've energized it accidentally. And I mean, we can go into that. That'll take a little bit of time. I don't know how much time we have.
We have like a minute and a half before break, but I just wanted to comment too. I mean, out there in Colorado, I mean, the height of all that activity was 1975 to 1978. And we know there was a heavy military connection out there. And that was always my question, James. Were they out there investigating the paranormal, or were they out there creating it, chicken and the egg syndrome? And I definitely want to get into more on the Havana syndrome after break as well. I know, Chris, you've done a lot of investigating and research on that Havana syndrome as well. And I find that really fascinating. But so I definitely agree with you on that, I mean, the Sand Creek Massacre happened right there. We have a huge Native American influence there at the Colorado Ranch as well. And I, like you, believe that plays an important role. And I want to ask you, and I know we only have like 45 seconds, but do you think they can, is there like voodoo magic or magic that they can do, take these energies and actually create this paranormal activity? Do you think that can happen?
I think people can manipulate it. I think that certain Native Americans knew how to do that by altering amplitude, the frequency through voice and through certain types of objects like a drum or a specific type of reed instrument has that capability. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's a way to manipulate it. Using a vector magnetometer, you're actually able to check not just amplitude, but amplitude and direction, and that's really helped.
Wow, that is so, I don't know. Anyway, that's a perfect way to take us into break. We'll be right back.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
Hi, I'm Austin Butler from Baz Luhrmann's new film, Elvis.
Tomorrow, all of America will be talking about Elvis Presley.
As a blood donor himself, Elvis shared the gift of life with patients in need and asked others to do the same. We're encouraging you to give blood this summer. Please visit redcrossblood.org/Elvis movie today to learn more.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
We always got to get our groove on, right, Katie? Keep us awake. It's not that late, really, especially not in Colorado. And James, you're in Arizona, right? So you're Mountain
Arizona.
Time too, yeah. So yeah, it's really not that late. Anyway, so back to the Native American like folklore, and that was it said that the Ute tribe had like feuds with the Cheyenne or Navajo? Is that correct? And do you think any of the petroglyphs or that, do they hold some sort of energy or power over these lands?
Yeah, so this is a great time to make a correction. So
Okay.
yes, the Ute and the Navajo had this war going on, and the Navajo were kicked out. And remember that the Navajo came at a much later time. They were originally up north, and supposedly they were cursed with the Yinallushi, which is the shapeshifter, the skinwalker.
Right.
But there's a couple interesting things that people don't really know, and I love to present this. First off, the Ute were actually mostly in Colorado. They're new to the northeastern Utah.
Mhm.
We've not been talking about the right groups, which are the Shoshone, specifically the band tribe known as the Timpanogos, and also the Paiute, who have been in Utah much, much longer, and probably have more relation to this culture that we know as the Fremont and Barrier Canyon style. There's probably the Hisatsinan probably were melded together with whoever they were. So we've really been talking about the wrong groups.
Oh wow.
The Ute, they leaked over into Utah where it is, but they didn't really get there until the U.S. government put them there.
Right.
And you talk about Chief Wakara. He was Shoshone. He was Timpanogos, and his brother, and all this history with the LDS Church, the Mormons, plays a big part into what's going on. And so we got to get it right. We got to get the right tribes.
Right.
And yeah, absolutely. So I do believe that certain petroglyphs were placed in specific locations based upon energy that's available in the area, whether it's directly below them or something. That's what I'm working towards, is trying to figure out where it's coming from. It's transient, so it's difficult to even with using cesium magnetometers and vector magnetometers. I don't know what the hell to make of it sometimes. It shouldn't be doing what it does, because sometimes it tells you there's cavities below ground when it's in the negative microtesla. Other times it jumps up to around 90 microtesla, which means there should be some dang huge magnet under my feet. And you have my analog compass, which is my trusted friend that starts spinning around. And there's actually areas around some of the petroglyph sites above Vernal where this is repeatable, but not all the time. So I don't know what to make of that too. You go there and then it starts doing it, and then other days it doesn't. So again, we're dealing with a transient energy, which I think is the cause of a lot of the phenomena. But again, I don't know if it's creating it or attracting it.
Yeah, chicken or egg. It's kind of like the upside down. I think it's Vecna doing all of this. So, I was going to ask you, I've got a couple of questions. I wanted to ask you about, you say history is all screwed up, and I want to ask about the dating technology, whether or not it's even accurate half the time. I think we should keep going back and retesting, but you just talked about, this energy. I kind of want to ask you now more about ley lines, and if you really believe in that whole theory. I mean, if you're saying this is transient, was Stonehenge placed there for, that exact spot? Is there really a reason behind that? What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm not sure what to believe about ley lines. I do believe there are locations on this planet that have this supercharged underground, and meaning that there are magnetic and electromagnetic anomalies that are coming together and doing something. And that's why I travel around. There's one up in northern Scotland, right outside of Inverness, that I'm at. There's one in Ireland that I go to near the Cairns. There's two in the Uinta Basin Mountains. There's one here in the area that I live in Arizona. So I believe that I'm going to find one in Turkey, which was really ancient Armenia, which is where I believe a lot of history actually began, especially when you talk about these people of great stature or other beings that were large. I think everything started in that ancient Armenia and then branched out. But yeah, ley lines, if ley lines are true, man, I think everybody should move to Salt Lake City, because apparently they say like that's where everything comes together.
Really?
So,
Okay. I've never heard that. Well, I want to
No,
know,
no.
and Katie Page actually just asked this in chat, and it's a good question. Do you feel different in these places, or is it just you've heard about it and you take your equipment there and it responds? Like, how do you feel?
So, okay. So on occasion, I've felt what I believe would be an issue with electromagnetic fields. It's the same as when I'm going to test the power lines, the 500,000 plus kilovolt power lines that are near Skinwalker Ranch up on the mesa. When you're 150 feet away, you're already at like 900 volts per meter, and you can feel it in your chest, and your extremities are tingling. So on occasion, I've felt that, but it's rare. I'm basically going more off of the petroglyphs and the pictographs, not just location of them, but sometimes what the subject matter is. And I'll test it off of that. And remember, my reason for being in the Uinta Basin had nothing to do with Skinwalker Ranch. I'd heard about it, like 8 or 9 years ago, but I wasn't too familiar with it. It was the petroglyphs that brought me up there, because I found this connection between several sites in Mesoamerica, and followed it up, and actually see this history of what we know as the Aztec, the Nahuatl people migrating. They originated in Utah and then migrated downwards into Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City.
Okay.
James, I got a million questions for you, but I got to bring you back to what you said about the artifacts that you found that you energized. My question is, what were those artifacts? Where did you find them? How deep did you find them? And wow, it's one question in 5 parts.
So,
where did you find them, and what kind of energy, and was the energy damaging?
So are you talking about the one in Mexico that I found?
I'm talking about any one your little heart desires you want to talk about.
So there's some things I'm not going to talk about yet. I plan on bringing something out maybe in the next 6 months. But
and we didn't see that in break.
Well, you brought it up in the first part of the show that you wanted to talk about it. So I'm holding you to your word.
Yeah. So when I'm conducting an excavation, it's unusual to find something out of place so deep in hardened ground. And obviously I picked it up with certain types of technology back in the late 90s that I didn't have, that what I have now I didn't have then. So I wasn't quite sure. Now I can do so much non-invasive intrusion into the ground, and tell you what's down there without even having to dig, which is what I was just in Mexico at multiple sites a couple of weeks ago doing that. But yeah, so I couldn't monitor back then. I didn't carry a spectrum analyzer. I was working on getting my degree at the time, and I would have loved to do that. As a matter of fact, I should probably go back to that site and do that at some point. I'll be in the Yucatan Peninsula in March, so maybe I should jump on a plane and travel over to Cozumel to take that reading and see if there's something to do. But remember that the Native Americans put these sites, and we're looking at sites that were occupied by multiple groups, whether it be cultures or civilizations or just generation after generation. but they would not leave these specific sites. And what was the draw to them? And why are we finding at these locations, not all of them, but a good amount, such strange and unusual artifacts, whether that be really interesting petroglyphs and pictographs that are missing regular day-to-day life? It doesn't discuss that. It's putting down this stuff that you can't quite comprehend what the heck they were trying to tell. And so you start going to these sites. I went with a good friend of mine who recently passed away, Clifford Mahudi, because we were only 90 minutes away from each other, to these sites where he said, I want you to take measurements for me, because I can prove through my oral tradition, and my people understand that, and people that are in this ufology will take my word for it, but other people won't unless there's scientific data to back it. And sure enough, so you go to Montezuma's well, where he says, the ant people brought the Zuni Pueblo up out of the ground after it was the fourth or fifth world for the Hisatsanan. I can't quite remember right now. But yeah, so sure enough, you're getting these interesting higher magnetic readings than the average for the area, the magnetic field. So
when you say you
get more and more of that.
James, when you say you energize something, what kind of energy did you discover?
Yeah, so it's magnetic fields coming in contact with pretty strong electromagnetic fields, and as you know, you can't block a magnetic field. You can only alter its pathway. So you kind of want to see if you can follow where it's going, and if it's changing, what the heck is blocking it. So we're finding this energizing taking place. I'm pretty sure it's underground. So what is it energizing above ground? You see this really interesting thing take place above the triangle at Skinwalker Ranch. So you got to wonder, where is it getting its energy from to continue to be there? And I've thrown at them that I believe it's like this connect the dot, that A is underground, B is 5,000 feet up, and then it's sending some type of signal or something out to sea out in space.
That's so interesting. So we have a question from somebody in chat, and then I also have a question. So I'm going to throw two questions at you, James. From Liberty Bell in chat, she said, "What are your thoughts on mounds and their builders?" And then I want to ask you, you're mentioning these, this enormous energy underground. Do you think that has any connection to the few authentic crop circles? Could that be energy? Like when you do the vibration, and it makes these patterns. Can that be happening from underground to create some of these circles or patterns that we're seeing?
Yeah. So I'll answer yours first before I forget, because I can read Liberty's. Katie, I don't know enough about the crop circles, so I'm hesitant to really talk about it, or if the magnetic energy or an electromagnetic field is capable of doing that. I know that you shorten a wavelength enough, and you're creating these charged particles that can rip things apart. So is it possible? Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we're having two fields come together, what are we doing? We're charging particles, to a point that people would understand it more as like plasma, or, and what is that capable of doing? But I'm not sure how, if that's a possibility when you're, getting into the crop circle. So I'm just not too familiar with that type of phenomenon.
Okay.
Then in regards to Liberty, so the mounds are something I track quite a bit. I believe that certain cultures were of larger stature than the typical indigenous individuals in the past. I believe that the mounds were placed at specific parts or locations of this country for reasons other than just, a burial right there in the middle of, that field or whatever it was. And not all, but some of those builders really need to be looked at. And we have to be willing to think out the box or go against, what our professors told us at school, and consider the possibility that maybe these cultures and civilizations were so far back in the past, like during the last ice age and before the last ice age, that they had technology that was very advanced. The Navajo talk about these giants known as the Starnake, which were mining throughout the country, and they had these tools that made noise. Well, what the heck does that mean? Is that insinuating that it had some type of frequency tool, vibrational tool, electrical tool, So there's so much. I think we just have to start digging deeper and start using more of this 3D ground imaging, the geosurvey systems like I have, better GPR. I went to dipole GPR, which now allows 3 different frequencies. So I can go 500, 300, and 100, go all the way down to a depth of about 140 feet, where what you see on TV, they use a 500 megahertz. So it's probably down to 8 to 10 feet. So now I can go to 100 megahertz, go a lot deeper. It's not as clear a picture, but it allows us to see a lot deeper, and then maybe start pushing to be able to get the permits or something. And you got to remember too, there's a lot against us now. You have NAGPRA and other laws, state laws. Nevada put some of the toughest laws that just don't allow you to do much anymore. So the non-invasive technology helps at least to know maybe we're in the right area or on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I was like, isn't that convenient? Don't touch it. Well, okay, you mentioned giants. I take it you do believe giants roam the earth, and what happened to them? Where'd they go?
Yeah. So I tracked 4 specific groups: the Kinametsen, which were in Mesoamerica, the Uemas, then also in Mesoamerica, and then up here, the Site-Ka, which were desert Southwest, which some people would know as the red-headed cannibal giants, which I don't believe they were cannibal. I think they were more headhunters. And then the Starnake. A lot of that comes through oral tradition. So a lot of people will tell me it's just mythology and folklore. That's just absolutely not true. I think all mythology and folklore has some origination point that was based in real fact. And again, once we start allowing more people to believe that that's okay and allow grant money to go that way and funding to be put in that direction, I think we're going to start making amazing discoveries. I honestly believe that what people consider as Ker Shinab, this sacred mine in the Uinta Mountains, I believe it's Tamuan Khan, which is a very similar type of site to the Mesoamerican people. I think it's origin for them. I believe there's a hall of records there. I believe the LDS Church is privy to a lot of information as they moved from New York through very specific paths out to Utah. They were following something specific that they knew. A lot of their journals, which are no longer allowed to be looked at, have this information. And we were lucky to get a few snippets of what some people had said about these breastplates and these swords that had to have been a people of great stature. And some of their founders were pretty tall people. So if they were saying it, you got to think at least 7 foot plus for these people of great stature.
What happened to them, though? Do you think they just literally bred with smaller people and the giants just kind of went away? I mean, what happened?
I think it's twofold. Yes, I think that if they were here during the Ice Age and there was a great deluge or something, like everybody else, the majority of them were wiped out, and they probably had to mate with someone other than their own kind, if that was possible. If there was a possibility to do that. But I think the other thing too is they were considered the gods and the deities of these people that came after them, and at some point they got sick and tired of it and they rebelled and they actually killed them. And you can see this in a lot of the codexes from Mesoamerica, at least. And you hear it in some of the Celtic, ancient Irish stories too, that they worshipped these tall people. And you even kind of catch it. And I'm not very familiar with ancient Egyptian history and all that, but you see it in some of the glyphs too. These beings of very tall stature looking down and ordering people to do certain things in the glyphs through some of the temples and not the pyramids, but temples and other buildings through Egypt. And you have the same looking individuals throughout the world. Like if I were to show you a photo of the Sardinian giants of the Nuragic culture and the Fremont people, what they put in the rock art in McConkey Ranch, which is Dry Fork Canyon petroglyphs in Utah, you may not know who's who because they look almost identical, which is, then you're going into diffusionism, which an anthropologist will tell you is BS. It couldn't happen. But
Oh, okay. And I want to talk about that too, but let's let Chris go because I feel
No,
like
no, go ahead. It's fine.
Well,
Go ahead,
okay,
Chris.
let's talk about diffusionism. Describe, in case anybody doesn't even know what that is. What is it, and what are your thoughts on it?
Sure. So we've been told for 175 years when you're going through anthropological studies and archaeological studies that there's just no way that one culture group or civilization could have spread everything out to the rest of the world. It just wasn't possible. And it is. When you look at the records and the historical data that is available, there's too many similarities, too much commonalities. Even the language, if you get into the languages, look at the Nahuatl language of Mesoamerica. Well, guess what? Tons of tribes here in the desert Southwest have this Udo-Aztecan language, which is Nahuatl, originating from the same place. And you look at megalithic structures, just how similar they are, that if it was a tie and connection to astronomy and cosmology, that it was the same thing. And the oral traditions are very similar, talking about the same thing. The names are just different. Quetzalcoatl was probably, the same individual, just a different name in Druid territory of Ireland. Or in Wales, with the difference between the Gaelic and the Gaelic, the Irish and the Welsh, they had a little bit of difference, but they're all these commonalities throughout the world. So I think diffusionism was absolutely possible. I think people were seafaring. We have maps to show that the ancients got around. They knew what was going on. People think, Teotihuacan is the only place where all these cultures met, and that's BS. On the Pacific coast, right below Zihuatanejo, is this ancient city known as Xihuacan, which is the same size as Teotihuacan, about 8 square kilometers. Fortunately, the town of Maciel has been built on top of it, so they can't excavate it as much, and only one pyramid has been excavated. But you're finding where all these cultures were coming together to trade for specific things, like Teotihuacan was obsidian. Xihuacan is actually named the calendar masters, or the gods that could create time. And you're like, what the hell does that mean? So what was going on there? The ball court at Xihuacan is the second largest ball court in Mesoamerica. Yeah. What the heck is it doing outside of the Yucatan Peninsula? So we're starting to find all this stuff that we didn't know exist, and we just got to change the paradigm, step out of the box, go with the flow, allow for the grant money and the funding to go into what just wasn't allowed, still not allowed, and peer review needs to change. I think some people may think like I do, and they're just absolutely fearful to say it, that there's just other possibilities with ancient cultures and civilizations existing that we just don't know about yet.
Yeah, that's been happening a long time. James, have you heard of that phenomenon where like inventions, people will think of the same type of ideas in different parts of the world, different countries at the same kind of time? Are they pulling this information kind of out of the ethers, out of energy? You know what I'm saying? Like going into a consciousness and pulling these ideas out. What do you believe? What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, you're talking about manifesting and things of that nature. And I think there is a
Woo-woo
connectivity.
stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, that you're getting into a personal belief that I could never prove or,
Right.
show. Do I believe in it? I absolutely believe there's some type of connectivity and we're capable of manifesting an outcome. I think we're capable of, connecting with individuals on the other side of, the world. I think we're capable of remote viewing.
Jam, I was going to say, can we do that with remote viewing?
Oh yeah, so I know quite a few physicists that their biggest belief and most important thing is remote viewing. And you're like, what the heck is going on? If you have these physicists that's what they want to focus in on. So there's absolutely something to it. Can I prove it? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to bring you back to a little bit of our science stuff here. I want to talk about radiation because I've been studying or investigating different types of radiation that's been happening. Some we've created, and some I believe that is happening by our visits with extraterrestrials. On the ranches, both the Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker, can you tell me if you I know others have, but if you encountered radiation, what kind of radiation, and what were the physical effects of any if you or any of your team had?
So I haven't encountered anything like that you've seen actually injure individuals. I know there is another physicist that was on one of those shows in season 1 that is actually tracking multiple different types of radiation and effects that it's having on people from the Uinta Mountains down to the Uinta Basin.
He had a radiation burn, didn't he, James?
I didn't.
No, he did.
Another individual did, not the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
So yes. Now, I have come into contact with magnetic fields that have made me get sick and feel like I was going to pass out. But nothing that caused burns or anything like that. And it's not discussed a lot. I think there's some more moving parts to it. And unfortunately, I'm not allowed to talk about a couple things that I do know just because of the NDA in that regards, in that sense. So there's other moving parts involved to what we're seeing. But what a great place to have tested, some type of, or weaponized something that we now know as the Havana syndrome there on the Uinta Basin. And if you look back, I mean, that would have been right around the right
syndrome's been around since 1952. The Russians have been with microwave.
Yeah, and R&D in the 90s, and yeah.
And so now they can use acoustic waves. They can pinpoint it to an exact person right to their brain. I mean, with using a laser, they can do it right there. They weaponized it, and they've weaponized it so fine that a person on the ranch there, they can pinpoint the exact person. Like you said before, one person may have an effect, the other person standing right next to them may not have any at all.
Yeah, I've always said I think a great experiment, and I know it would require a lot of permits, would be to jam the GLONASS-1 system and other satellite that in between that 1 and 3.5 gigahertz range. To use a jamming system, actually jam everything, 5G, 4G, 3G, and specifically that like 1.6 to 3 gigahertz, and see what shows up when it's being jammed. And there are jamming packs when you watch the news and you see, things like certain things occurring. You'll see certain military personnel or police personnel wearing this huge backpack with about 16 antennas coming out of it. They're jamming the entire area. And I think that would just be an excellent experiment to do, because I believe it may allow us to see something that we currently can't.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you right now, they probably did experiments down there, but the worst part about it is there's certain people they didn't tell, and that wasn't fair.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, all right, before I pass this on, I got to ask you a question. The UFO and the Alien, the book you did. Tell us a little bit about that book that that came out.
Yeah. So, I told people when I was going to these conferences that I looked around and damn, I looked like one of the youngest people there, and I was like, there was no kids involved, no adolescents involved in these conferences. And I was like, what could I do to affect that? And I wanted to start a series where I introduced children to a specific type of event or phenomena. The first one, I wanted it to be the UFO and an alien. I wanted it to be where they were interested. I wanted it to teach a story as well about equality and equity. But I wanted to also introduce them to locations that are tied into ufology. And so the UFO and an alien has very specific information in regards to locations that have been investigated in the past, and introduce them to that phenomena. And then from that was part one. Then I went to the shapeshifter scare, which then went into shapeshifters and the skinwalker. And I moved it from Colorado into the Uinta Basin. And then we went into that, and we went into Native American mythology, folklore, and oral tradition. And then part three was Bigfoot at Skinwalker Ranch, which introduced cryptids. And as the main character, he started out in the 4th grade, went to the 5th grade, went to the 6th grade. I was able to advance, the terminology used and the understanding. And then Bigfoot at Skinwalker Ranch actually introduces giants, or people of great stature. It introduces magnetic portals, the cryptid that we know as Bigfoot. It introduces them directly to locations on the mesa above Skinwalker Ranch. And then the newest book isn't part of that trilogy, called The Giant and the Golden Underworld. And that goes into a lot of truth into what's occurring right now in the Uinta Basin and Uinta Mountains. It's a way to get around NDAs because it's fictional. And then for the first time, I introduced photography into it. That is extremely important to what people are interested in. And I couldn't do it any other way. I have now started putting a lot of my research and for the last 20 years out onto a new YouTube channel that I started. And it's just been real positive. I should have done that sooner. I thought books were the only way, and it's just the age I am. I had to figure there's more to it now, so go digital.
I get the impression you really have this emotional calling to do this work. I mean, none of us get into this because there's so much money in it. That's for dang sure. So, I mean, at what point in your life did you feel like I have to dedicate myself to spreading this information?
Sure. So for a long time, I've believed that there's, this high strangeness, and that word paranormal, wasn't really thrown around a lot until about a decade ago, maybe 15 years ago. And there's things you see, interesting things that take place. Sometimes maybe when you're on duty as a police officer, you see some things that just, you can't quite understand how it occurred or what you really were experiencing. So I knew there was other things out there, and I was real interested in past history, world history, because I knew there was just no way in hell that we started out in Sumeria several thousand years ago. There's too many artifacts and too many stories out there that just go well past that. I mean, just the Sumerians themselves. A lot of people don't realize that they created their cuneiform text in order to trade with the ancient Armenians. And the ancient Armenia was created by two giants that fought, and the benevolent giant beat out the malevolent giant. And so what was the reason for the Sumerians wanting to do that, and be a part of this? And it was really Mount Ararat at the time. There was no Armenia, and now it's in Turkey. But yeah, so I saw this mixing, this constant mixing of this high strangeness with past cultures and civilizations, and then suddenly realized they probably went through all of this stuff and were having to reinvent the wheel. So why not maybe delve into that, see if we can find more of that historical data and bring back what we've lost. And people talk about these halls of records throughout the world. I absolutely believe in it. There's been certain round copper, bronze, and gold discs that have been located, and other types that have been turned into a religious belief that were probably real historical data. And it's just a matter of finding it. And there's a lot of stuff that we've yet to find that's still hidden below our feet. And now we have this technology where we can do it better, quicker, and hopefully get to that point where I'm hoping to get to.
Yeah. Right. What do you think of all the rumors of what's going on in Antarctica?
Yeah, that's, gosh, I wish I could, go down there.
There are giants in there? Craft?
It kills me that governments are allowed to tell me where I can and can't go, and they don't own it. So.
Would you like to go to Antarctica if you could?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
I can tell you, my daughter went to Antarctica. You ain't missing nothing. my daughter actually was on an expedition to Antarctica, and getting down there, she had to go on a trawler with a bunch of drunken Russian sailors. That was extra. That was worse than finding aliens. But she did go to Antarctica and spend a week down there. And it's a very interesting place because there's places right there that you walk into sub-zero weather, and as soon as you cross a certain path, you're sweating because it's 75, 80 degrees.
Weird.
Just like that. There's the ozone layer is completely gone there and stuff. And there's some very interesting places they will not allow you to go there and stuff. They absolutely tell you that this area, and this area off limits. You can't. You're restricted to certain areas.
I wonder why.
Lost civilizations.
Isn't there so many different denominations of chapels and churches in Antarctica? Curiously, is that true? Or I read that somewhere that like a disproportionate amount, like for where there's no population. Why are those there? I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard.
I don't know. James, do you know?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, let's get to portals. That's something you do know.
Portals and Bigfoot too.
All right. One of your friends told me he saw a portal, and you lectured on portals. Tell us about portals.
So, what people consider these portals, these gateways, they actually occur above the Earth right now. NASA is actually they have 4 satellites that all they're doing is monitoring this, and a portal between the sun and the Earth, which is 93 million miles long most of the time, is opening up at these locations known as X points. They've just discussed that when these different magnetic fields or energy come into contact, they charge the location, charge the particles, and create electron diffusion regions. And when this all started coming out around 2011, 2012. And a lot of the data that I had originally started collecting, and remember, I didn't have the tools available back then that I do now. They were first, second generation magnetometers. It was hard to get them with GPS on it at that time and all that, but it sounded very similar to what on occasion I would come up against at locations throughout the world that had a connection to ancient cultures and civilizations. And there tended to be burial sites there, sites where cultural sites that had been occupied for thousands upon thousands of years by different groups, or there were petroglyphs, pictographs, or this certain amount of artifacts and objects excavated that a lot of what was on them doesn't make sense. So you had to think, well, why were these areas so important? One that everybody knows about is Stonehenge. Another is Teotihuacan. And you start finding all this interesting stuff, and you start missing day-to-day life being logged into the rock art. So you don't see corn like it is most other places being put in there, or daily activity, hunting for animals, or just a lot of animals being drawn. And suddenly, as you know, we'll move through time now. We're coming up to the year 2017, where I started upgrading to different type of technology, and I was able to start tracking these magnetic readings and electromagnetic fields, better spectrum analyzers that can now go up to 6 gigahertz. I was finding that there's these locations where certain things would occur. Like I'd start having some weird feelings like pins and needles. My analog compass would start acting up, spinning. I started picking up a transient magnetic readings. The spectrum analyzer would pick up high spikes in RF, EF, EMF. And I would come back and the data was repeatable, or the data collection was near the same, if not the same. So it was repeatable in certain areas. And you're like, well, these are the same spots that these people were going to in the past. Next, you had to go into oral tradition and get in contact with, those that live today. Hopefully they knew a little about yesterday, and really pay attention to what they were saying. And it turns out that they have a lot of real information that's real history. It's not mythology and folklore, but it's what these shaman or their medicine men or the elders were doing. They were going to certain sites, fasting, altering frequency, changing amplitude with the use of musical instruments and chanting and singing. And you had to kind of see what was possible now with technology, what was possible with the technology of then, or what could have been done with the abilities they had, and it matches. And guess where these portals are? Not just present day, but what they talked about in the past. They talk about them going into these spirit worlds, or where the gods were, or the deities were. So were they talking about a specific location that they were capable of going into and out of, that they just didn't understand at the time, and explained it as best that they could? And absolutely. So I truly believe that we're seeing magnetic fields come into contact with electromagnetic fields, creating charged particles, which are creating what people know as portals or gateways.
Yeah.
Well, okay. On the topic of portals,
Yeah.
I'm sure most of our listeners are, familiar with David Pilati's Missing 411. And I'm wondering, do you think, obviously there's certain areas around the world where we think portals just exist, but I'm just wondering if they could literally, if they move, if they could pop up in different places. I'm wondering if different people have been placed around the globe, portals can open up and release people. Maybe they can also take people. I mean, maybe they're not always anchored to a certain spot.
Sure, and that's a great question, and we've actually discussed that. And I can't say who that is, but we've talked about this transient energy. So 100%, I think you're, pinning the tail on the donkey. Okay. I think that's exactly what is possible. I think we're starting to actually collect data that's showing it's happening. And I don't really care to use video. And I think that nobody believes video. They question it. You can manipulate it. You can make it up. But if I'm using radar guns that I used when I was a police officer, using Ka band at 34.7 gigahertz to track a UAP, and it's bouncing back miles per hour to me, well, that's telling me it has a surface that I'm capable of bouncing that radar off of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's just looking outside of the box to collecting new scientific data, or using 3D ground imaging to locate these sites that are 12, 13, 14, 15 feet underground, because it's been 10, 12, 15,000 years since they've been used. And You just have to step into the Yucatan Peninsula or into the jungles of Guatemala or Honduras and realize that within 100 years, an entire city can disappear. So imagine what can disappear in 1,000 years or 2,000 years or 5,000 years. And based upon we find so much here in the desert Southwest because look at the weather, it's arid. So maybe it was a lot different. It had larger flora, fauna, where people of great stature could survive off of that 10,000 years ago. And whatever occurred, if it was a great deluge or if it was a meteorite, whatever, they're gone. But the weather patterns changed in certain areas, allow artifacts and evidence to remain in better shape and condition than like at a bog in Florida. But then if it's bone and wood, a bog in Florida may be the best place to pull out that evidence.
Right. I just moved just 8 minutes from the fluorescent fossil beds, which has the biggest collection of fossils actually in the world from volcanic ruptures and that. And I've been hiking and the energy there, it's beautiful, but it does feel kind of different. And I'm wondering if I should hike around with a compass. I mean, if you brought up Katie David Pilates and Missing 411, should hikers pay attention to that? Would it spin if there was something underground like that? I'm just saying I don't want to go missing.
Please don't.
I mean, I think about it all the time. I hike and I go, gosh, dang it, David Pilates. But at the same time, you want to be aware.
Yeah.
Is it a good place to take your wife?
Chris.
Sorry.
Oh, no. Anyway, that's a serious question, though, James. Actually, would a compass, if I carried a compass and there was something going to happen, would it start spinning or something? Okay.
Well, think about if you put an analog compass next to a neodymium magnet, what it's going to do to it. It's just going to send it all over the place. So if you come up to some type of natural or unnatural artifact underground or in a rock, whether, like I said, it's naturally occurring that has all this phenomena coming to it, or if it was put there or creating it, you're going to be able to pick that up. Absolutely. And when you start hitting certain electromagnetic fields, you're going to start feeling it too. You're going to feel it in your chest. You're going to feel it in your, you're going to have that pins and needles feeling in your fingers and your shoulders. So it's a matter of paying attention to your surroundings. Absolutely.
Good to know. I'm going to start carrying a compass. Go ahead, Chris.
What did you see different from the Blind Frog Ranch and the Skinwalker Ranch? What did you see that was different from those two special places?
Sure. So Skinwalker Ranch absolutely has some type of phenomena occurring. Again, whether that's natural, man-made, or other-made, I don't know. But there is something occurring there. It's multiple events occurring. I fully believe that some of that is magnetic. And there are some things up in the sky I wish I could share with you. People need to go around that area and look up, start taking photographs of just the sky.
Of the Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah, above Skinwalker Ranch. You'll be amazed at what you might capture. But then you go to Blind Frog Ranch, and I really haven't captured any of that phenomena. What Blind Frog Ranch is important to me for is that, again, I believe that this very ancient site is somewhere under Skinwalker Ranch, probably a little bit north of it, but there may be multiple entrances. And the cultures and the history at Blind Frog Ranch, they haven't shown this, but there's a site there that, goes well past the Archaic period into Neolithic period, probably even older. And I truly believe that there's a cave entrance way down there, and it's a matter of getting a big excavator and just pulling that all out because it's private property, so it can be done. And seeing, what's 20 feet below, because I have picked up some incredible readings with the Ferris metal detection unit that goes fairly deep. And I have a new metal detection system that has a built-in magnetometer that can go 26 feet down because the coil is 2 by 2 meters. It's massive. Wow. Instead of the normal 12 to 14 inches that you see on television with these metal detection systems. And we're picking up something down there.
Any plans of doing that Any plans of digging there?
Yeah, so I had the owner. He dug out a lot of the foliage that was there, but it's so thick with brush and scrub brush and other foliage. It just wasn't enough. We really have to take off the first couple of layers to allow me to really conduct a grid level search using the 3D geosurvey system to see what's up against the hillside. And I can almost guarantee in that location and in one other location that's right on the north border of the ranch and then the state property above, there's something there too, because the ground sensing, long distance ground sensing systems are picking it up. But if you've ever been to Blind Frog Ranch, it is some of the most rugged, difficult terrain to get through. It could be 500 feet away, but it takes a half hour to get that 500 feet just because of where you are.
Yeah. They actually, sorry, Kay, I was just going to plug for Blind Frog that they do offer tours, and the energy there felt really good to me. So that's all I wanted to say, but they do offer that. So go ahead, Katie.
Well, okay. So with your background in anthropology and archaeology, I know you have said that you think some ancient artifacts are not the real deal. I'm wondering what you feel about some of these non-human looking, frankly, very alien looking skulls that have been found around the world.
Yeah, so the skulls and the ancient alien stonework and artifacts that are coming out of Huelos de Jalisco in Mexico and a couple other sites. The skulls, you really got to look at the sutures and see, where they're placed. And the osteology isn't my strong point. I've done a little bit of mandible work, but not a whole lot. I'm more comfortable with the artifacts instead. So I think I have seen one skull in Mexico City that does not look Homo sapien. I can actually say that I'm 100% convinced that is not us.
Okay.
Interesting.
Who or what it is, I think it's an ancient civilization. I won't go. I have a harder time believing in aliens from outer space. I have an easier time believing in interdimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about the jinn. What are the jinn? And then, but these artifacts that are coming out of Mexico that look like aliens, 99.9999999% of them are fake. And I have a presentation up showing why I believe that. But that's not to say that I haven't seen 4 pieces that I don't know how it's possible that they're in existence, because they're the real deal. They're thousands of years old. They don't look as alien as what we're seeing in these fakes. The ones that we're seeing now look like I'm watching, Predator versus Alien. And you're mixing just too many cultures all together. There's no rhyme or reason to the script that's being used. I'm actually familiar with Mayan glyph, and it's just bogus. People, what they're doing, and I've actually been down there and seen these homes where they're generating these artifacts, because it's generating so much revenue now that even the cartels are involved.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, because you're talking about selling one artifact for $7,000 to $10,000, and it's crazy. But there are 4 artifacts I came across that I don't know. I mean, they're thousands of years old. I guess if you want to say this is an alien, okay, it looks like what I would say is an alien. It's kind of like what I was hinting towards in my UFO and an alien book. So yeah, I think there's a real deal out there. I believe that these are ancient cultures and civilizations. Were those people writing down or carving into stonework what they saw? Were these their deities? Were these, beings that have lived here for hundreds of thousands of years? I think that's a possibility. Where they came from, I have no idea.
Wow. So James, we only have about 3 minutes left. I want to thank you so much for being here. What are you doing? Where can people see you in the coming months?
Yes, Phenomicon in Vernal, Utah. So that's September 8th through the 11th. I will be doing the tours to McConkey Ranch, Dry Fork Canyon petroglyphs. I think there's some of the best evidence for giants in that rock art. I'd love to show that to people. I'm going to be speaking on Friday. The Skinwalker Ranch team will be talking. They'll be doing some panels. Some great people there with me, like, Terry Carter, who I think is like the absolute treasure hunter, Indiana Jones of our time. He's a great guy. Because all this treasure and ufology and all that, it all comes together, and people don't realize that. So yeah. And then on my YouTube, I've put out probably about 40 different YouTube presentations in the last month, because I was so tired of hoarding that information, and I felt it was just best to finally get it out so people can run with it and hopefully work off of that and move past where I can only get as one person, especially when I fund myself. So
yeah. What is your YouTube channel called?
It's James Keenan, Giants and Paranormal.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me.
Chris. Thank you, Katie. Thank you
Yes.
to our producer, Bill Skywatcher. And thank you to Amanda Curran. I guess we do have a couple minutes. Thank you to all our listeners out there. I don't know about you, Katie and Chris, but I want to get out to the Paranormal Con. Is it what it was called? James?
Phenomicon.
Phenomenon.
Yes. I love that name. And I just want to, I have to say, I love your videos because they're super digestible too.
Oh,
you know,
thank you.
I just in researching to get ready for this interview, I was able to cover a lot of ground watching your videos because they're shorter. They're not super exhausting. You just really want to get stuff across in that kind of shorter, digestible way. So highly recommend people check out your channel. It's really,
Absolutely.
really good.
And check out his book series for all your kids and grandkids. And actually, I love reading those books too.
Oh, thanks.
So make sure you check out James Keenan at Amazon and all. I mean, you've done other books too, not just that series. I think you've written how many books now, James?
8 books. 8
books.
total.
Yeah, so make sure you check out his books too. But we will see you next Tuesday night. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.
Thanks.
Thanks, James.
Uh-oh. We're going to go right to the last second.
It's okay.